All right, welcome back. President Biden is spending the weekend in Delaware before hitting the road again to help sell his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure and economic plans. His vision, more government money to spend for child care, community college, health care, infrastructure like roads, bridges, and the power grid. Biden is calling it the biggest jobs plan since World War II and a renewed role for U.S. government. The president is already taking his case to voters in this new ad.
He's just getting started with a new plan to create millions of good jobs, putting Americans to work. You won't hear him yelling or sending angry tweets, because for Joe Biden, actions speak louder.
All right, let's talk about this. Tim Naftali is a CNN presidential historian and a former director of the Nixon Presidential Library. Good to see you. And Karin Demerjian is a CNN political analyst and congressional reporter for The Washington Post. Good to see you as well. All right, so Karin, let me begin with you. Just how tough is this fight going to be for Biden? Not only is he going to battle Republicans, but Democratic Senator Joe Manchin is looking for some big changes if he is going to support these measures.
Yeah, I mean, what Biden laid out was fairly expansive, and you've already heard Joe Manchin starting to express his discomfort with many of the specific proposals that are within Biden's plan. Joe Manchin has always been on the more conservative end of the Democratic Party, and when it comes to these massive spending programs, he's living up to that history and reputation. He's expressed discomfort with the idea of this universal pre-K. He's expressed discomfort with the price tag for all of this and the idea of raising taxes on the wealthy in order to pay for many of the programs that Biden outlined. But remember, this isn't just about Biden stating his position and needing to then bring along Joe Manchin and potentially another, and appease Manchin, if not other Republicans. There are Democrats in Congress who think Biden's plan doesn't go far enough and want to push for a more expansive version of Medicare to make the health care side of this actually even broader than what the president laid out. So the president's kind of trying to pull this balancing act, but because there's momentum from the left of the Democratic Party in Congress, Joe Manchin is now sounding even more negative about many things than he would have been if we were just talking about Biden's plan versus this one West Virginia senator. And that could make for a much messier fight as we go ahead and actually try to parse through all of these individual programs and costs.
Yeah, so Tim, few presidents are able to make everybody happy, but this president, seems to be channeling right now FDR and making this plan, appealing. Are there a lot of similarities between what Roosevelt was trying to do and what Biden is trying to do here?
Yes, there are some interesting parallels that actually haven't gotten much play lately.
We always talk
about we always it's true. We always when we talk about the New Deal, we talk about the stabilization of the banks. We talk about the Civilian Conservation Corps, which put a lot of Americans to work cleaning actually national parks. We don't talk about the help for rural America. In those first 100 days, Franklin Roosevelt and Congress together passed the Agricultural Adjustment Act, which helped farmers by pushing up prices. And more importantly, the Tennessee Valley Authority. Only 3% of Americans living in North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Virginia had electricity in 1933. The TVA brought them electricity. And what happened? Rural folks started to see the Democrats as supportive of their interests. And it's all about what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. If we just talk about big government, right, most Americans, when they hear big government, they grab their pocketbooks. They turn off.
What can you do
but
for
if
me?
you say Washington's going to help your state establish broadband, there are counties in Ohio where only 60% of the people have access to the web, mm-hmm. and of those, very few have access to high-speed internet. If you're saying the federal government is going to help make your life better in rural America, that's going to change. That may change the politics, and that's what Biden is doing. That's what we should be watching. Biden is basically refocusing the Democratic approach to make it clear to rural America, Democrats are with you.
So Karin, then that's part of the strategy here. The president's team already had this ad ready to go shortly after his address Wednesday night. I mean, is he trying to exert some pressure on lawmakers by making sure that his plan is appealing to Americans? In other words, is he trying to shame lawmakers into supporting him?
Well, I don't know if it's shame is the word, but sometimes the best way to get a lawmaker with you who's not with you is by getting their constituents to be with you. And then there's upward pressure on that lawmaker to change his or her position to respond to what those constituents are clamoring for. I mean, we've seen that happen in both positive ways and negative ways. Remember the healthcare battle during the early Obama years. I mean, that was a big phenomenon of everybody fighting for appealing to the public and the public showing up at these town halls and influencing those lawmakers. It's the same sort of play right now. If, as Tim said, Biden can kind of reach over the heads of these more recalcitrant senators and convince their voting populations and the people that keep them in office and keep them in this job to be with the White House, then yes, it makes that a much more easy transition. But I guess I would just say one thing, which is that we have to be careful of falling into the trap of just looking at West Virginia's style of rural America. Remember the recent history of the COVID stimulus battle. Manchin was not an island unto himself. There were other senators who also resisted some of these more expansive moves, like the $15 minimum wage, like the eligibility of who would receive the stimulus payments from the government. So this is conceivably going to be a broader strategy than just Joe Manchin. This ad is going out in more places than just West Virginia, most likely. And so we have to look at how the Biden administration tailors this message that Tim's talking about to the concerns and interests of each of these parts of the country that have these representatives that are not necessarily going to play ball with what the White House and frankly the rest of the Democratic Party wants because of that, being pulled from both ends phenomenon that I was talking about before.
Tim, you're nodding your head. You're in total agreement with that.
Oh, totally. And look, Mitch McConnell is nervous. When Mitch McConnell, who doesn't really care much about the writing of history, frankly, starts talking about the 1619 Project, when others in his caucus start talking about the fact that the federal government doesn't want you to eat red meat, they're trying to change the subject because the Biden approach, look, Biden's been in power, has been in Washington so long, he knows how Democrats have failed. Biden understands you've got to change the message. You've got to also deliver for rural America. Mitch McConnell sees that as a threat. So he's trying to change the subject. The question is, will he be successful if the people of Kentucky start to see the benefits of a Biden-pushed stimulus and infrastructure program?
Fascinating. All right, we shall see. Tim Naftali, Karun Demirjian, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.